Hey guys, it's Jaylon. Welcome back. I'm here today with a very exciting video. This is the Panner's tag and it was created by Ruth Foley. This is actually my second time filming this because the first time I filmed it, I felt like I rushed through it, and I love Ruth and I don't want to rush through a tag that she created. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to refilm that and I'm going to spend my time and make sure I do it justice. So I am refilming this, but this is an exciting tag. This is, again, like I said, a tag that Ruth created. There are 10 questions, and we actually have an 11th question that another participant, Deb, actually added to the 10 that Ruth put together. So there's a total of 11 questions that I'm going to be going through. There are several ladies who are participating in this, like the original core. I know there are probably other folks that are also participating because I believe Ruth included this in her community page as, you know, as a tag that anybody else could participate in. I will leave all the questions down in the description box. So you're more than welcome to do this tag as well. And if you want, you can let me know what your answers to these questions are down below. So the other ladies that are definitely participating in this tag are, let me grab my phone because I want to make sure I don't forget anybody. Okay, so the folks that I know are participating, well, of course, Ruth, because she created this tag. Also, Andrea over at Pretty as a Peacock. Danny over at Danny's Makeup. Jen over at Project Beauty. Misty, I think her channel is Misty. And Kim over at Teacher Loves Beauty, and then a couple of folks on Instagram. Valerie, her Instagram handle is VMRT, and then Courtney over at 06 Barbie Law. I think that is everybody. Of course, I'm sure there are other folks who are also participating in this tag, but those are the folks that I know for sure are. Pretty sure I got everybody. And of course, me. Lipstick on the teeth? No. Okay, let me pull up the questions. The first question is, what is the easiest category to pan? So I'm sticking to makeup. You know, for me, it would be like overall, it would be like bath care items like scrubs or body lotions. But in terms of makeup, I'm going to go with mascara because I went back and looked last year and I think I finished almost 30 mascaras last year. I mean, there was a mix of deluxe size and full size, but I think there was 29 exactly. 29 mascaras last year. And so far through so far through April, I have finished 10 mascaras. So I go through a lot of mascaras. Now, I am working on my deluxe size mascaras right now, so there's a lot of deluxe sizes that I'm working through, and some of those are a little bit dried out. So they do go faster, but I also layer mascara, and I will wear, or I should say, I will put on like 3 or 4 coats of mascara. And like right now I'm wearing one mascara on my top lashes and then a different mascara on my bottom lashes. Oh, I have a little mascara crusty under here. Hold on. I sprayed my face after I did my bottom lashes and I forgot to take that little mascara bit off. Sorry. So yeah, mascaras for sure. I blow through mascaras really quickly. There's a couple of other categories that I do also pan pretty quickly. Setting sprays I go through pretty quickly as well, but mascaras are my easiest category to pan. I should say, I also go through eyeliners. Like black eyeliner, not colored, but black eyeliner. I can pan those fairly well. Hardest category to pan. If someone out there is not putting blush here, what's up with that? Blush for sure is one of my hardest categories to pan, if not the hardest category to pan. It just takes so long to finish a blush. I mean, and I went ham on my blush today. I mean, you could barely tell. It's defeating. I think in my blush inventory that I did last year, I think I maybe had pan in 3 or 4 blushes, and I have a lot of blush. I have a lot of blushes in my collection. Pan in like 3 or 4. And that's it. I mean, it's so hard to pan, and I love blush. So yeah, blush for sure. Bronzer, yeah, sure, but I feel like you can, you know, you have more surface area to put bronzer on. And I don't know, I feel like highlighter, I feel like I hit pan on highlighter faster than I do blush, for sure. It's not as hard pressed as blushes. A product you blow through, or you blew through. So just in general, I blow through eyeliner and mascara, as I mentioned, but a recent product that I blew through is this concealer from Ulta. This is the full coverage liquid concealer, and I have the shade Light Cool. This does not have a lot of product. So typically certain concealers take me forever. Like the ones from Tarte, those have a lot of product. I think that one has like 12 mils. The one from Lancome even has more than that. But this has like 2.5 mils, 2.4. So I finished this really quickly. I rolled this into my A to Z and I finished it last month in April. So for a concealer, I finished it really fast. Yeah. So yeah, this is for a concealer, I blew through this one. But yeah, that's the most recent product I blew through. That's really hard to say, blew through. Whew. A product you won't let beat you is question number 4. No, that's not question number 4. Question number 4 is a product that you lost the will it took so long. So I actually did end up finishing this one. The one that took so long to pan that I almost lost, I mean, I kind of did lose the will and then I eventually brought it back. It was the Too Faced Shadow Insurance, but it was the candlelight version. It was a like short-lived product by Too Faced. And the candlelight version was like a shimmery version of their Shadow Insurance. Oh my gosh. I mean, you know, eye primers take forever to pan as it is. That actually would go into a hardest category to pan as well. They take forever. Eyeshadow primers take forever. And then you throw in the fact that it was shimmery. So I couldn't put it like all the way up. I could only use it on the lid. It was a hot mess of a product. I had it in a project and then I was like, it was defeating. I stopped working on it. I rolled it into another project. I used it for a little while. It was like it never ended. I think I finally finished it last year. I worked on that thing for like 4 years. I'm so glad that's done. But yeah, I lost the will for a period of time to finish that. But I finally did. Ooh. Question number 5. A product you will not let beat you. I'm working on this right now. This is by Tatcha. It's called the Pearl. It's the Under Light and Eye Treatment, and I have the shade Moonlight. So here's the product. I've had this forever, and I like haven't used it. I'll use it, and then I won't use it, and then I think I had it in a project a couple years ago, just to make like a dent. So I'm working on this now. This is in my 22 in 2022. So there's a little bit in the cap here, but this is how this is looking. This well, I mean, it goes all the way down. The product goes all the way down here. The well is so deep. So I'm not going to let this defeat me. I want to finish this. This is a very expensive product. It's really nice, actually. I really do like this product. I use it before I put on my foundation. So after I've done my primers, I'll put this on just underneath my eyes, and then I'll put on my foundation, and then I'll go in with a corrector. And I feel like it adds a little bit to the dark circles I have. I really do like it. I would potentially repurchase it. I think they still make this. But yeah, there's a lot of product in here. I feel like you don't need much. It's only 13 mils, but you don't need very much. A little bit goes a long way. But I'm not going to let this beat me. I'm going to finish it. Okay, so that was question number 5. Question number 6 is about eyeshadows, and it's the easiest eyeshadow formula to pan. And we're going to look at matte shadows and shimmer shadows. For me, that is very much the same, and it's Lorac. And I think I would, well, let's start with mattes. I'm going to go with Lorac. So I panned the Lorac Pro 3 last year as my Pan That palette. And I was finished with that palette by the end of September. Maybe even early September. Like I was completely done with it. And the mattes in those, in like these Pro palettes, this is just the original Pro, they kick up a lot of shadow. So once you kind of start digging into them and swirling your brush around, there's just a lot of kick up. And it's, you know, you can see. It's a lot of shadow. So once you really get in there and you start like working your brush in there and really start using it over and over, it's just a lot of kick up. And the same goes for the shimmers. The shimmers are loosely packed in the pan, and they're not super impactful shimmers either. So I don't know. I found it to be, did I just get shadow all over my lens? I may have. They're not great. The shimmers are kind of crumbly. And, you know, it also could be because they were older palettes, but I found that I was blowing through those shadows, blowing through them. So I would say Lorac for both matte and shimmers. Now, I would also say that there are some indie shimmers that are also easy to pan, and mostly because of they can be kind of crumbly, and it's the nature of them being kind of crumbly. I don't know how else to word it, but they can be a little bit easier to pan, and you know, they're gorgeous, but they can be a little bit easier to pan sometimes. The next question is around the hardest eyeshadow formula to pan. And I have a couple here. For matte and shimmer, I'm consistently MAC. MAC has consistently been in my opinion, very difficult to pan. I worked on this matte shadow last year. It's the shade Hope. Finally hit pan in it, but it took me all year to do it. All year. When you get your brush in a MAC shadow, there is zero kick up. Like in a matte shadow, there is zero kick up. You're not going to have any shadow flying around. At least this older formula, no kick up. It's tightly pressed in there. I mean, you get beautiful pigment, but yeah, no kick up. And the MAC shadows are the kind where it's a buildable formula. So you're not going to go in there and get like bam pigment. It's a buildable formula. And I like that about these shadows. I think that there's something that's easy to work with when it comes to shadows like this, where you can just build it up instead of going in and then you just have to like, oh my gosh, there's so much, you have to blend it out. And it takes a long time to blend out a really pigmented shadow, whereas this, you can build it up, and I love that. Same goes for their shimmers, to be honest, or their metallic shades. Like this is an Extra Dimension Skin Finish shadow, and this is the shade, I depotted it so it doesn't have it on the back. Smoky Mauve. This was Smoky Mauve, and I used this puppy 30 times. And look at that big dip. And I probably used it more than 30 times. And I'm fairly confident I am not close to hitting pan, because this is a deep pan. As you can see, this is a deep pan. And I don't think I'm close. So MAC shadows just take a long time to hit pan. They're tightly pressed. And you get a lot of pigment, I mean, it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous shadow. But yeah, it takes forever to hit pan. So I would say MAC. Now, you're not going to get the bling that you're going to get from an indie shadow. It's a different kind of formula, you know? So it's something, I think like their new Dazzle shadows, it's going to be a little bit different. Like that type of formula is different, but they're traditional. I'm talking about their traditional shadows. It takes a long time to hit pan in those. A couple of other matte formulas that I have experienced extreme difficulty in hitting pan. Natasha Denona. Oh my gosh. I worked on this shadow forever. I want to say like 6 or 7 months. This is in the, oh god, Peak palette, and it was Amhara. Took forever. And, you know, great. You get bang for your buck because these are expensive shadows. And it's tightly packed in there. There's not a lot of kick up. Same thing, kind of like with what you experience with those MAC shadows. It's not going to kick up a lot of powder. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful shadow. Took forever. I used it so much. And I know many people are probably going to call this particular brand out. Too Faced. And I would also, there's one more. Too Faced, this palette here. Again, another one that took forever to hit pan in. Maybe just as long, if not longer, than the Natasha Denona palette. In here forever. This palette would take forever to finish. And then lastly, Tarte. I'm working on this palette right now to hit pan. And these are tightly packed shadows. Very tightly packed shadows. And some of these are really pigmented. Like I'm working on this shade Activist right here. And I mean, there's a ton of pigment here. It's very, very, very pigmented. And yeah. It's going to take a long time. So yeah, I would say those for mattes, I think those are the ones that I've experienced to be the most challenging. I haven't had as much of a difficulty with shimmers. I think probably the other formula that I think would be challenging now, I have not hit pan yet, but I'm working on a Viseart shadow. And I think Viseart could be one that would be challenging because I can see them being very tightly packed. And the formula reminds me a little bit of MAC in the sense where it's not a crumbly formula. And it doesn't kick up a lot of powder either. Same with their mattes. It doesn't it's tightly packed. So I would say Viseart with their mattes and their shimmers would probably be the hardest to pan. Okay, going back to the questions. What's next? Okay, the next question is best alternative use to pan a product faster. So this is not something that I do, to be honest. And here's why. I have a very large makeup collection. So I typically will use a product for its intended use because I probably have it. I know some folks will use, and this has been suggested to me as well, it's like to use lipstick for a cream blush. I have cream blushes. Or to use eyeshadow in the brows. I have brow products to use. And so I would rather use the products that I have for the purposes that I need to, rather than repurposing a product in a different way just to finish it, if that makes sense. I think if I had a smaller collection, I would probably do it that way, but for me personally, I would rather just use a product for the way it was intended. Now, that's not to say that I have not used products in other ways. For example, I use setting spray to foil shadows. I'm currently using the eyeshadow in here, that dark brown, this Activist shade, in my brows when I use this ABH Dip Brow Pomade because it's a little bit too warm. So like I have it in my brows today. But that's one off. Like, that's not something I consistently do. One other thing I do is, because I don't really love pressed powders, I will use pressed powders to set my eyeshadow primer. So that is a trick that I do and I'm doing now. So like, I've got this Maybelline Better Skin powder, and I am using this powder to set my eyeshadow primer. I also will use a loose powder that I may not love. Like right now I have the original RCMA powder, and I have it in a little sifter that I got off. I don't remember what website I got it off of. Alibaba or something. These are like little travel sifters. But anyway, I put it in here, and I'll set my eyeshadow primer with this as well. So that's one way that I'll, like, this, that's not how this is intended to be used, but you could, right? So those are some ways I've used products, but that's not my go-to. I'm not, that's typically, I'm like an anomaly in that way. I think most project painters will use products in ways that they're not intended, but that's just not how I like to use my products. And that's just how I like to pan. Now, I know some folks will also use like highlighter, and they'll break it up and put it in body lotion. I think that's a great way to use up highlighter. I actually like to donate the products that I'm not going to use to family and friends, and that way it will actually get used by other people. I have somebody who has like nieces that are young, and like a large family that will actually use the products that I'm not going to use. So I don't feel guilty like donating it to her. Anyway, I'm rambling at this point. Okay, next question. Best project panning tip or trick? So for me, this is two things, and probably not typical like answers to these questions, potentially. My first one is to rotate through your collection, because I feel like sometimes when people are project panning, you can get stuck in a rut. And if you are panning the same thing for an extended period of time, it can get boring, at least for me. I like variety. So I think setting goals that are some long-term and then some short-term, so that you have a little bit of variety in the different categories you're working on. So you have like a couple of different blushes you're working on, and a couple of different lipsticks you're working on, and you have a bronzer that you use pretty consistently, but then you may have another bronzer that you bring in for the summer months, so that you have a little bit of variety. I think it's really important, because otherwise you can get really stuck in a rut, and then it's like you just stop. And I know some folks have had that challenge before. So I think variety is really important. Rotate through your collection. Enjoy the things that you have, because otherwise, if you just use this core set of things, then everything else isn't really getting used, and it's all going bad anyway. It's all like getting old. Everything else is getting old. So rotate through your collection. Love the things you have, and don't hate pan. Enjoy the things that you are using. If you're using something and you hate it, stop using it, because I don't really see the point of hate panning something. Prime example. I hate this so much. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Eye Primer. Oh my gosh. I hate it with a passion. I've tried so many times to use this, and I decided today I'm done. I'm done. It's going in my empties. I have used the majority of it. It's going to be called an empty because I have used it. But I absolutely hate this product. So I'm done. I'm done using it. I'm not going to try anymore. It doesn't work for me. It just... It doesn't set properly. I think you have to have like a dry eye to make this work, because when I start putting it on my eye, it starts to like congeal in certain areas. It's a very pigmented eye base. So the whole point is for you to have a nice canvas for your eye color, for your eyeshadow to be able to set on. But it starts to like, see, I think if it's on a dry, like on my dry hand, it's fine. But when I start doing my eye makeup, I have eye cream that I placed on, and this is, you know, even if it's 15 minutes later, I have dry skin. So this is going on a face with skincare on it. And it starts to like, it doesn't look like this when it goes on my face. We'll just put it that way. Hot mess. I hate it. So I'm not using this anymore. So I would say don't hate pan, because then you won't enjoy doing your makeup. That's my next best tip. And the other thing actually I have a third tip, is for harder to use items, I suggest setting usage goals. So blushes, I think anything that's hard to use, blushes, that's hard for you, right? So what's hard for you to use is different for what's hard for me. So blushes is a great example. I have a really hard time using colored eye pencils. So I like to set usage goals for myself. People try to get me to finish colored eye pencils, but I know myself, and I know that for me, though, they're really hard to finish. So I like to put them in roulette style projects and set usage goals on them. And that way I'll at least rotate through some of them. So set usage goals on items that are more challenging for you to use or finish, etc. So those are my 3 tips. Okay, what project panning has taught you? What project panning has taught me is that over the course of the 5 or 6 years that I've been project panning, is that I like variety. I don't like to just pan 10 lipsticks in a year, because I did that one year and I failed miserably at it. It's not my style. I have transitioned to use a quarter of a lipstick at a time, and that has worked so much better for me. And it kind of also preps a lot of those lipsticks for other projects eventually to finish. I think last year I finished 30 lip products. And that's really because over the course of the 5, 6, however many years I'm in project panning, I am working on a third, a quarter, etc. of these lip products. So I've got this much left of a lip product to finish. And that's what I was doing last year, is finishing some of those, or finishing a little deluxe size sample. So for me, it's really about variety, working on a lot of different things on my collection, setting smaller usage goals, and knowing what my capacity is to finish items, so that I'm not overwhelming myself. And then kind of going hand in hand with that, like I mentioned before, rotating through my collection. Because at the end of the day, if I focus on one, granted, I'm doing a Pan That palette, but if I only focus on that one eyeshadow palette all year, then all the other eyeshadow palettes I have, they're gaining they're getting old by 1 year, and they're not getting touched. So rotating through the collection, I think, is really important to me. That's what I've learned, is that in the years past where I have hyper focused on one palette, it was like, I have all these other palettes and they have not been touched. I'm just now starting to try to play with the other palettes that I have, and they've literally not been touched. The other thing I've learned is that I really do not, I kind of suck at finishing eyeshadows. I think Danny is trying to finish 20 eyeshadows and hit pan on 70 or something. That's not me. I can't do that. I think I hit pan in 16 eyeshadows last year, in addition to finishing more than that, but in addition to finishing my Lorac Pro 3, which, like I mentioned, was an easy formula to pan. But I even though I do my makeup, I would say 5 days out of the week, I don't finish eyeshadows that easily. I don't multi-purpose them either. they only go on my eyes. They don't go anywhere else. I don't multi-purpose eyeshadows like other people do. I mean, I may be using it in my brows right now, but that's like, I've never ever done that before. So I don't finish eyeshadows very easily. I finish lip products, but I don't finish them from start to finish. I guess another panning trick that I have, that's really hard to say. Another panning trick that I have is to be cognizant about reapplying lip products regularly. I reapply lip products all day long. And maybe because I have dry lips, maybe that's why, but I am constantly reapplying lip products. All the time. All the time. Every couple of hours, I'll reapply a lip product. Maybe even faster than that, depending on the formula. Like if it's a really like balmy product, even more quickly than that. I remember side note, tangent. I was on a video conference call and I was applying like the NARS Afterglow Balm. That's what I was wearing. And throughout the course of the hour-long conference call, I reapplied it 3 times. And after that call, I was on the call with my manager and she was like, let me ask you something. You reapplied your lipstick 3 times. And I'm like, it's not a lipstick. It's a tinted lip balm. My lips were dry. I was drinking coffee. She didn't understand. But reapply your lip products. That's how you're going to get through them. Okay. Yeah. So project painting has taught me, I like variety. I don't want to ignore my collection. I like to rotate through the things that I own. I do better with smaller usage goals for the things that I don't do well panning, like colored eye pencils, blushes, lip pencils. I suck at panning lip pencils, so usage goals on those really works well for me. Those kinds of things. And then the question that Deb added in, which is number 11, is item you're most proud of panning. And this is a product that I panned several years ago, but I will throw a picture of it. If I can find a picture of it, I'll throw it up here. If not, sorry. But the item I'm most proud of panning is actually the Too Faced Chocolate Soleil Bronzer. Full size. So I actually have a backup of that product, but I was so proud of like completely panning that bronzer. I was so happy. That may be the only bronzer I've ever finished. I think it is. I have finished blushes before, but that was before my collection got like this ridiculous. But that was my first bronzer ever. So yeah, that's the most proud I've ever been of finishing a product. I completely finished the Lorac Pro 3 last year, which was, another very exciting thing. And I think that may be the first like palette I completely finished, except for I didn't finish the black shade. But I had panned the Urban Decay Naked palette, and I panned the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance, but there were shadows in both of those that other than like a black shade, that I was like, I'm not finishing those. But the Lorac Pro 3, other than the black, I pretty much finished the entire thing. Anyway, I'm rambling. So that is the tag, the painter's tag. Thank you so much, Ruth, for putting this tag together. Like I said, anybody is welcome to participate. I love this. So much fun. Thank you so much for letting us hop on this tag, Ruth. Mwah. So that is going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you are doing well and staying safe. Please hit that subscribe button, and I will see y'all next time. Bye. Hey guys. Film a video about these. This is by Tatcha. It's the under eye. No, it's the pearl. That's not what it's called. Rather than repurposes family and friends. And, I feel like it actually will get used then versus it will actually get you. So those are my 3 tricks. Please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hey, rude. Bye.